Hey, so if you pray for a sign that you need to stop smoking, I'm here to help. So, I have about 4 or 5 reasons on why you need to give it up. And this goes for smoking, hookah, cigarettes, what have you. So, the first is spiritual access. When you smoke, you're no longer sober minded. And when you are no longer sober minded, you give the enemy access to come into you and have its will. And usually, with that comes along other spirits. So, you look at smoking weed, for instance, can then be attached to gluttony. It could also be attached to loss of money, because think about how you are stewarding your money. It could also be attached to health issues, sickness, because think about how it's not regulated. People will put sometimes other drugs on top of whatever you're smoking to make it more addictive. So that's something you need to acknowledge. There's certain spirits, demonic forces attached to smoking weed. So that's the first thing. The second thing is that people can easily make drugs like smoking, alcohol, even food, a idol. And what that means is that you start to look to your weed or to your cigarettes or to your hookah as something that will give me comfort, as something that will make me forget about the anxiety that I'm having, the struggles that I'm going through. Instead of smoking, what you really need to do is pray and say, yeah, I need your help. I'm going through anxiety. I'm going through loneliness. I'm going through whatever it is that you're going through, and start to look to Him to help you get through those issues without having to be dependent on a drug of any choice. So that's the second thing. The third thing is that you have physical repercussions attached to smoking. So I always like to think of our body. You have the physical ones where you think about, it affects our lungs, it affects our skin, it affects our teeth, it affects our hair, it affects everything physically that we're going through, the way we smell and taste, because our senses are going through the smoking, so we don't taste things the way we should. And then the long-term effect, or the long-term effect of smoking. So you think about your brain health, has there been any studies that show that, maybe 40, 50 years down the line, that maybe you could have Alzheimer's or that you could have Parkinson's because you have let a whole bunch of chemicals have access to your brain continuously. So that's another thing that you need to be wary of. Does drug use or weed use or cigarette use have long-term effects? And we can see from cigarette smoking, lung cancer, that it indeed does. So that's the body effect of smoking. But then you also have the stewardship. I think I mentioned that most people, especially in this economy, are asking for more. And if you are participating in smoking weed, then you're not stewarding what you have correctly, because you're taking that money, buying drugs, and you're smoking away basically your money. So then can you be entrusted to have more money? So that's another thing that we also have to take into consideration when we're asking for more blessings, more provision. Am I stewarding what I have? If you're smoking, I would argue no, you're not. And then I think that was all the reasons that I have. Lastly, I would say, and this is, I think, the most important, the effects on it changes our behavior and our reactions. So we know that it makes people sleepy and hungry and happy and all of those things. But when it comes down to it, is it something that can help you sin? Do you choose holiness under the influence? Can you fight correctly in the spirit? When you go through spiritual warfare, can you fight and win under the influence? Even physically fighting. If you're a man and somebody is attacking your wife, can you fight for her under the influence correctly? Or if somebody's calling you to get into more sin, can you say no under the influence? It affects our scruples, basically. It affects, we're more open to, larger or more sin. So I would keep that in mind. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments. I'll try to get back to you, but be blessed, y'all. And that's all I have.